So your fight with Jesus Mono Ramos Jr. was originally planned for the Fundora Thurman card before the entire event obviously got canceled. How did you handle it? Was that, do you figure that that was possibly a setback or go? Did it adjust anything for you guys? How does it feel to finally just get this match confirmed for December?
Oh man, obviously I was looking forward to fighting October 25th, but you take things as it comes, and you just have to readjust, and that's what was happening. And so I'm excited for this fight on December 6th.
Cool. And then you're coming off one of the biggest wins in your career against Daniel Jacobs. Is that right?
Yes, sir.
Uh,
Yeah. Well, that was I think a year and a half ago almost.
yeah.
I fought Danny Jacobs and beat him.
Yeah, I go with that victory. Does it give you more confidence heading to these fights?
Well, I think it's you have to take every fight as it is. You can't overlook anybody, because who you beat before doesn't matter. It's what you do, now. But definitely, I have confidence in myself and confidence that I am a elite fighter and that I'm a champion. So absolutely, I think it gives me confidence. But you got to take everything as it is.
I think you're fighting under a new promotion company now than you were just a few years ago, right? Because you're at some point you were with Golden Boy.
Yes, I was with Golden Boy. This fight is with PVC.
Well, it go and again for those that maybe don't know or the business side of boxing, I go what is that? What is that decision? What do you look into in decision when picking the proper promotion company or again who to fight under? Like how does that really work out for guys that may not work or guys that are up and coming boxers?
Yeah. So I was with Golden Boy. They were my promoter. They were putting me on their fights. They were, helping me to get, the fights like Daniel Jacobs and Gabe Rosado and things like that. They were pushing me and promoting me. PBC came to me, which is another company, to get me to fight, their guy, Jesus Ramos. And so, I guess I'm fighting this independently. So
Okay.
I don't have a promotional company. Um, so with that being said, this is kind of an independent thing. If I beat Ramos, um, then, things change as far
Sure.
as, you know, they may want to do a longer term deal. So,
Got you.
with that being said, right now, as it stands, I'm independent. But after the fight, things
Things
change.
could change. Right, right. So when you study or go, if you do study a guy like Jesus Ramos, go, what stands out the most about him as an opponent?
That he does a lot of great things. Ramos is a good pressure fighter, but he also can box. Um, he's a good counterpuncher, and he has a lot of good skills. So he's a very tough and strong opponent.
Yeah, and Ramos, much like yourself, they kind of carry at least they have some boxing background in their name, I guess, or his uncle. Obviously, your pops, the Mosley name being so big, and I guess that's probably a question you probably get asked a ton as far as at what point you kind of differentiate your career from you become your own fighter at this point. I guess how do you manage kind of having to live up to something like that because again the Mosley name is so well known in boxing.
Well, the thing is I don't have to live up to anything.
Hmm.
I choose to do this. My dad is a peer of mine. We just so happen to do the same thing, but
Right,
I'm not doing this because of him, and nothing I do reflect like is a part of him, and nothing he did is a part of me.
right,
We are separate, and we're just peers, and
right.
so maybe somebody else has a different sentiment, but I feel like for me, it's just that's what he did, and I and obviously it's a great sport, and I love this sport. The love that I've got for this sport has come from my dad and has come from being around this sport and seeing great fights and great people and stuff like that. But um, I don't put pressure on myself from, oh, I have to do this for my family, or all this stuff.
Sure.
Because that's not why I'm doing it.
Right, right. And again, Ramos, going back to Ramos, Ramos is what, 24 years old, an explosive dude, and very high. He has a high knockout percentage. I go, what do you see as the most as maybe a dangerous, the most dangerous weapon coming from a guy like Ramos, or even if you do see one at all?
I feel like he's a good pressure fighter. I feel like he has a lot of volume. I think that is something that he does very well. Is he throws a lot of volume.
With Ramos kind of being this Mexican styled forward coming fighter, is that type of style you like kind of choosing as an opponent? I guess high pressure fighters.
Everybody you just got to deal with differently. It's
Yeah,
not a preference. Obviously, I grew up in California, so I grew up and saw that style a lot. So I'm somewhat familiar with that come forward Mexican style.
yeah,
But you got to take every situation as it is, right, and try to
right.
break that down and do my best with it.
I go, and this is your first chance to kind of compete for the WBC title. What does fighting for the interim WBC middleweight championship mean to you and your career?
Fighting for the WBC interim world title is a great privilege. You know what I mean? Like that's the belt that everybody
Right,
wants to get, right? When you think when even like casuals think of like boxing, they think of the green
the
belt.
green one, exactly.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, right. And so with that being said, like the fact that I get on my first world title shot, I get to fight for that is a blessing. And I'm so thankful. I've trained 11, 12, almost 12 years to get to this point. Um, and I'm here. So
right.
I'm very, very excited and thankful for this moment. Um, yes.
For those that don't know, the WB the interim title, when you kind of get into these positions, what does that line you up for?
So um, when somebody fights for an interim world title, that means the champion is currently inactive for various reasons, whether that is um, he may be taking some time off. Maybe there's some health issues, or maybe he's fighting for other belts like unifying belts and things like that.
Mhm.
So there are other things that are stopping him from defending his belt. So they put somebody else in line to where they can fight for a interim belt, and later the interim champion is supposed to fight the full champion. So one of them uh, takes the belt. Or if for whatever reason that fighter doesn't defend it with the interim champion, the interim champion becomes full champion. For those who don't know,
Right.
Carlos Adames is the full WBC world champion. Jamal Charlo was the champion before him. For whatever reason, Jamal Charlo didn't defend his belt, and Carlos Adames won that belt, won the interim belt. And when Charlo didn't fight him, they then turned um, Carlos Adames into the full champion, and that's how he became the full champion. He's defended
Mm.
it, I think, 2 times since then, but that's how he became, because he was once the interim champion, and he didn't have to fight Jamal Charlo for that belt uh, because Jamal Charlo moved up in weight. So that's how he became the champion, and that's where we kind of stand. So
Gotcha.
I uh, I could potentially fight Carlos Adames for the full championship, or um, if for whatever reason he can't fight, um, then I would become full champion.
Got you. I go, looking at your career now again. would you say you had some rough moments, losses to the contender, the Quigley fight, but you rebuilt yourself and put together a strong streak. What changed inside? What changed inside of you to kind of feel that turnaround, or what's changed since then? Like, or is how do you explain something like that? Go again, just probably early parts of your career comparing to where you're at now.
Um, having losses early on in my career and even, somewhat recent in my career, you just never give up, right? If the goal is to become a champion, the goal is to get to be the best version of you, you don't allow those setbacks or those losses to stop you. You just get back up, dust yourself off, and get better,
Keep
right?
going.
You figure out what you got to change or what you got to do, and you get better, right? If it doesn't, kill you, you try to use it to help you become stronger, and hopefully it does make you stronger, right? And I feel like I've done that thus far. So
Right.
no matter what happens, if the goal is to get to being the best or being the best version of yourself, then it doesn't matter. You lose, all right. Well, I'm not gonna let that happen again, or I'm gonna do something different and improve and get better and do it again. Right.
Right. And I tend to ask a lot of the guys, especially guys at your level. I always ask them, if you could snap your fingers and change something inside of boxing, the way it stands as of today, whether it's the business side of things, like what would change, what would you want to change that kind of creates friction for both maybe the boxers or promoters, because there's so many people in play in a fighter's career. I go, if there was something you could change, what would that be? Something that stands out.
Um, a scoreboard.
Huh. How
Uh,
so?
so if there was a scoreboard on where everybody could see, and the fighters, trainers, everybody could see. Like,
Yeah.
right? If the judges just put on their scores and they went up
Live
on the
scores.
scoreboard, it went up on a board,
Yeah.
I would know where I'm at all times. I would
Right.
know. And I feel like that would elevate the game. It would make everybody know. And yes, all of the boxing people that hate open scoring and all this other stuff
Yeah.
say, "Oh, well, we tried it and it doesn't work." But the reason why it doesn't work is because you haven't given the culture time to stand to to adjust to the open scoring. Because for one, the it's for the audience, well, most importantly for the fighters and the trainers, right? So they're not telling their fighter something of they're telling
Right.
them something that is real. You're losing. This is what we got to do, right?
Right.
It's not like, oh, it's not my assumption. Like, look, you're losing. Change it, right? Oh, we
Right.
lost that round. Let's see, we did that wasn't working. Change it,
Right.
right?
Right.
Or we're 6 rounds down, knock them out, right? Go
Right.
for the
Right.
gusto, right? And so that's the most important part. But the part after that, that I feel like is almost as equally important is the people that put their hard-earned money into this and don't know where they are or what they're looking at for
Hmm.
real. These people right now that we're talking to, right? They
Hmm.
can know anything that they want right now. They can go on ChatGPT, they can go on Google, they can go on everything, and they know exactly what information they want to know. Why would they spend their hard-earned money to watch a thing that they don't know exactly what they're watching? They could think
Right.
that, oh my God, this guy is beating his ass, and then
Right.
he lost.
Right.
What? Why? Maybe I bet on that. Maybe I bet on this card. Maybe I, you know, spent money on the pay-per-view or whatever the
Sure.
case is, and I feel robbed.
Do you think that part also kind of holds these judges accountable? You know.
No, it has nothing to do with the judges. It has
No.
nothing, no. But it holds because the most important because you're taking the power away from because it doesn't matter. That
Hmm.
doesn't matter. What matters is that at least I know what it is. I know where I
Gotcha.
stand, which
More
is
for
the
the
most
fighter
important.
standpoint and the coaching.
Yeah, the fighters and the coach's standpoint, and for the people watching,
Right.
right? They know what they're watching.
Yeah.
At
Just
least
like
if
any
they
other
know,
sport.
yeah, every other sport other than MMA knows exactly where they are and what they're watching, whether they agree with it or not.
Yeah.
Because of course, in football, oh man, that was a bad call, blah blah blah. At least they know where they are,
Right.
right? You can't deny that he's winning.
Right.
Or they got the first down. We don't care. You know what I
Exactly.
mean? Right?
Exactly.
He got the first down. I didn't think that call was okay, but whatever. He got the first down. Right. So
Right.
at least that they know. And guess what? People are tuning in and they're staying consistent with those sports. Right. But
Right.
everybody's always saying, oh man, I didn't agree with that. I don't know. Boxing's falling off, man.
No, never.
Well, but what I'm but of course,
Yeah.
but from this casual fans, right?
Right. 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 For
Right.
sure.
And if
I
it
think the
wants
younger generation, I think there is a decrease in obviously newer fans to the
and
sport.
and it's because of that reasoning, right? Because kids can know anything that they want to know right now. They know all the dances, they know all the
Right.
everything,
Yeah. Yeah.
and they can know exactly what they're watching at all times. But if they turn into boxing, they don't know.
Right.
And so it has to be palatable and consumable for the people that want to love this sport because it's a great sport. So you
Right.
have to be able to give them something that is going to help them understand. And so
That's it.
that would be my thing. If I could change
Yeah.
things, I would think that the other thing would be the um, the stigma around losing. If you watch any
Right.
other sport, nobody gives a blank
Yeah. Yeah.
about losing. I mean, shoot, everybody losing. Houston,
Right. Right.
Texas is losing. Everybody,
That's right.
everybody losing.
That's
And
right.
nobody's like, oh, are they gonna give up the team? Are they gonna sell the team now? Like,
Yeah.
like no,
Yeah.
like what do
Just
you
part of the season. Part.
yeah, like what I mean, like people lose in basketball, and their parents aren't calling them out. Are you sure you want to do this anymore?
Right.
Are you
Right.
sure you want to be
Exactly.
a basketball player anymore? But
That's
a
right.
boxer loses. They parents friends call them. Are you sure you want to do this? Like
Yeah. Yeah.
what's going on? Like it's like get out of here, man. This is a part of the sport, man. Like
Yeah.
if you didn't put that stigma around losing, like it would just be okay. Well, I'm gonna get better. You know what I mean?
And do you think that's always been around? Do you think that really came into dominance, like the Money Mayweather time talking about
Well,
yeah,
so I mean, if we're gonna get into that conversation, I would say that because yes, I agree that it kind of came from that thing, but I feel like more than anything, he was playing within his rights with uh people like top rank, like the players in the game.
hmm,
So he was using their logic against them, right? Because
hmm,
if you go like this, right? If you're a promoter and I lose a fight, right? You say, well, you lost that fight. I can't pay you that much. I can't pay you the same amount of money. I have to pay you less because you're not that valuable anymore because you lost, right?
right,
So that means the other side of that coin is if I win, that means my money goes up and you pay me more, right?
right, right.
So if I never lose, guess what happens? It goes
You
up.
get it more, yeah,
And so that's why I continue to press that. I'm undefeated. I'm the undefeated. I'm undefeated because I'm letting everybody know that guess what? I'm valuable. So you better pay
yeah,
me my money because when if I see all these other guys losing and their money goes down. So if I win, my money has to go up and keep on going up and keep on going up. And I'm going to tell you that I'm the greatest. I'm going to tell you that my money's going to keep on going up, right? It's going to keep on
right,
going up. So, with that being said, in doing that and expressing that, because he's a prize fighter and he's trying to make more money and make sure that they know that he has to get more money, that's why he was doing that. Because you
hmm,
seen what guys with top rank or guys with all kind of promoters that they do that. They lose a fight, dropped. They lose a fight,
hmm,
dropped. It happens
right,
all the time. And so with that being said, he was playing within his rights or playing within that system to let those guys know, hey, I'm valuable, and hey, you got to
Right.
pay me more money because that's your guys' logic. You started this, not me. You know what I
Right.
mean? Like,
Right.
and so he played on that, and now that created a culture of, on both sides with the fighters and with the promoters because that only enforced their hand more. That see, okay, well, we setting that standard, then guys losing, their money goes down. Guys losing, their money goes down. If you look at guys like Arturo Gatti, or there's all kind of guys that lost a lot of money with making bank though, because back in the day, because they were in exciting fights, they would fight their heart out, they would win, lose, or draw, they would still um, get the fights they wanted and put on great fights for the fans, and they still get paid a lot of money. Torgata
Right.
got paid millions of dollars.
Right.
You know what I
Right.
mean? And there's so many other fighters that had many losses that got great paydays and was making money and getting consistent stuff like that. But like you said, the Floyd Mayweather error because uh, he was trying to force their hand. I
Right.
feel
Right.
that's why that happened. And so, I do feel like if there was more unity in boxing and more places where there is a collective, there would be more, I guess, equal or base pay,
Right. Right.
stuff like that, and more regulated. But that gets into the whole craziness of, do you want a house for this thing where that's
Yeah.
controlling all of it, or do you want guys making a whole lot of
Making.
money? You know what I mean? And it's to each his own, because if you're Canelo,
Right.
you're like, man, never.
Right. Right.
But if you're regular guy that's doing this, it might make sense to you, or it might make sense to you to force for that. So
Right.
I don't really know what's right. But I do feel like it's an interesting conversation.
Yeah, and I mean, you kind of, it seems like from the outside looking in, everyone could kind of say, well, man, you've grown up around boxing your whole life, and now looking at it now, you know, because you know so much of it, and it kind of going back on things you could change. Do you think there's things that have failed to evolve in boxing, or that are ultimately not allowing a younger generation to pique their interests as probably some as like other combat sports, the UFC for example? You think there's something that just failed to innovate or evolve in the sport?
Not necessarily. I mean, I think the only thing that's different in the UFC, I mean, from a large scale, is that their organization, right? Their
Mm,
organization, and boxing doesn't have one house that is known as the sport, right?
right,
If you like, for every sport that we've named, right? The football, basketball, soccer, they all have houses.
right,
MMA, they all have entities that are the overarching um, symbol of that sport, right?
right,
NFL is football, but there are other organizations in football, but NFL is the one that everybody thinks of when they think of football. You
right,
know, MLB, FIFA, all those things, they all have those organizations that when people think of the sport, they think of that entity.
right.
Boxing is the only one that doesn't have that.
Right. And like you said earlier, it just depends where you're at in your career cycle that, those things could benefit you or might not, right?
Well, when it comes to the the people consuming boxing, I feel like that would be important.
Hmm.
I feel like that is an important thing. I feel like that could definitely help. And I think PBC tried to do that premier boxing champions, right? Like I think
Right.
they tried to do that. I think the messaging kind of got lost, but I think that was kind of the initial thought. But I feel like that would be very helpful for boxing to have an entity that is, you know, known like, oh, that's the
So
thing.
homo boxing. Right, right, right.
Yeah.
Thank you, brother.
Um,
Yeah. We're coming up on 30 minutes. I don't want to keep you too much longer. But we'll touch back on just one more thing here. This matchup is labeled as a classic. What they would say. Young power puncher versus an experienced contender. Do you feel that storyline is accurate?
I feel like that's a very accurate description of this fight. He is a young, hungry, uh, up and coming fighter, and I'm an experienced veteran. So
Right.
I think that, yeah, yeah, I would say so.
What do you think is the difference? Kind of look again, your career path again. If you could look back at a 24-year-old version of yourself, what's evolved or what's changed for you to again finally have this status of where people know you're an experienced fighter.
I would say that change is just experience and growth,
Hmm.
growth in the sport, growth in myself, and continuous pursuit of becoming a champion. So that's essentially what has changed and evolved, and I feel like it's benefited me.
Awesome.